Welcome to the Intimate Marriage Podcast, where I teach educated, successful couples how to have incredible, passionate relationships so that you can stop compromising and start feeling fully alive in your relationship. I'm your host, Alexandra Stockwell, aka the Intimacy Doctor. I'm a physician and an intimate marriage expert. My husband and I have been married for 26 years. We have 4 children and full professional lives, and we've created an amazing relationship. I've also shown hundreds of couples how to do so as well. If you want to deepen your understanding of your own relationship and learn to access new heights of emotional, sensual, and erotic intimacy, you're in the right place. I will show you how. Now let's dive in. On this episode, I am so moved, I am honored, and I am inspired to share with you Marla Mattenson and Julian Colker. When I think about how to introduce them, I actually want to share how it feels, even though we could go into all of their media experiences and the incredible careers they each had. There's so much to say, and I'm going to invite you to look them up. The link to their website will be in the show notes. And what I want to say is they're each teachers of mine. I've been Marla's client. My husband and I have been Marla's client. And while it wasn't formal, I certainly was held by you, Julian, in the manner of a client. And so much of who each of you is and are becoming runs through my work. So that's my personal introduction. And let me just say that they've done a million incredible things that you can look up if you want the particulars. Is there anything that either of you would like to add to that?
Thank you. Received with much love. Thank you for that very generous and accurate description of us. So I received that and we've received that. Thank you.
Yeah, really beautiful, really beautiful. And honestly, it's been just such a huge honor to have you in our lives, and you and Rod, and, to be around other couples on the path of growth who are really, truly practicing everything they teach. And that's what we call integrity, right? When you're integrated for real behind the scenes. So it's a real honor to be here on your podcast in season 2 to, share a little bit about, how we do relationships. So thank you for having us.
Yes.
It's really my pleasure. And I feel like since we're all focused on relationships in so many different ways, I just, without spending more time on it, just want to point out that, yes, you and I met, Marla, very much in a coach-client relationship. And for anyone who listens with a sophisticated ear, you'll hear us talking as mutually admiring peers. And that's not such an easy transition for all coach-client pairings. So if that's something that interests you, by all means, pay attention to that, but it will be inferential from here on out. And as would behoove 3 people collaborating in a very mutually respectful, peer-oriented way, we each chose what we would want to talk about. So let's start with each of you, and then I will share what we want to talk about, because it's going to sound like it's 3 different topics. And for all 3 of us, it was instantly clear that it's actually the same topic. So do you want to share what you had thought we would talk about, Julian?
Yeah, absolutely. I wanted to discuss what is our definition of intimacy. And our definition of intimacy is to be both unguarded and receptive simultaneously. And so for us to have a discussion about what it means to be unguarded and what it means to be receptive, and the times when we are guarded and the times we're not receptive, and how those all interplay in together to really create what is true intimacy. And obviously all intimacy starts with yourself, begins with you, and then how you choose to engage and interact with your environment and the world around you.
And what did you choose for our topic, Marla?
Well, first, I just want to say that if you would have told me 3 years ago that this is what I would have written down, I would have laughed. And not with a kindness, I think, to be honest. I wrote down play. And I personally have been on a wild ride of really exploring what is play and why is it so essential to explore that in relationship and internally in my own inner world. And this gentleman sitting beside me, my love, life, and business partner, Julian.
Who, me?
This guy.
Yeah, me.
And your incredible, now 12-year-old daughter has taught me so much about play and being playful and lighthearted through challenges. And so, together, our definition of intimacy being unguarded and receptive leads directly on into the pathway to play and having a more dynamic relationship that everything is not taken so seriously. It's taken more sincerely and more collaboratively.
And oftentimes we move past sincerely into silly, because that's also a fantastic place to be. After you're in silly for a little while, it's good to come back into sincerity. So we like to play along the entire spectrum.
Yes, I think that's a very nuanced dance between silly and sincere. And hearing the two of you speak, I'm reminded that I do want to say, as part of the introduction, that your website is theintimacyexperts.org. That's the Instagram handle. And just already, I'm sure anyone listening can see why that would be so. The topic that I want to speak about is, while I was Marla's client, I remember so clearly as the relationship between the two of you deepened and expanded and morphed and became more fulfilling and meaningful and remarkable. You were so clear, Marla, that this is, meaning yours, my business. The Intimacy Experts, that is my business. And yes, Julian collaborates, he supports, he participates, he has his zone of genius. We're not in any way diminishing his contribution, but it is my business, meaning your business, Marla. And through the course of being your client, you and I focusing on completely different matters, I heard, as you began to speak quite sincerely, about our business. And there are things you shared about how you reorganized the structure and the website copy, and most of all, just how it lived in your soul as a collaborative endeavor. And so I would love to hear so much what that evolution, what that pivot was for each of you, and also specifically if you knew where it was headed as you began that journey, or at what point you realized you really want to embrace the hour in the purpose of your work together.
That is a very potent topic, and we love it because it is absolutely true. And I was very definitive about my business, my everything. And I think probably a lot of very ambitious, driven people who are visionaries and have a mission or a vision to bring out to the world can relate to that. When you are the one who put the effort in to get something started, that it feels like it's yours. And it did. And it was mine. And there was a joining. And at some point through, and I can't remember an exact moment or any like an inflection point that shifted from my to our. It was definitely an unfolding. I was on the path of looking at ownership and my ego and dissolving more and more of what I thought I knew about business and what I thought I knew about creation and co-creation. I also was on a journey of learning how to trust this man and learning how, what is he capable of? What are his skill sets? What value does he bring to the business and to the client structure and to, the vision in the world that at the time that I had. And actually, I think I do know maybe when it really shifted for me. It's when Julian and I feel like we got tapped on the shoulder to create a home study program for couples, which we did. It is called the Lovers Play course. And when we first decided we were going to do this, we hired some, for guidance because we're not experts in course creation. So we hired this beautiful couple to help us extrapolate some of our teachings and our knowledge and, to be able to share with the world, because we have this incredible relationship, wonderful business, and we were doing great at the beginning of the pandemic. And we were like, we want to share with couples who are really suffering behind the scenes how to have a really epic relationship using some of our teachings. So when we first had the collaborative conversation about, well, what's the focus going to be? I wanted to create a course on how to clear resentment.
A course that would indeed be valuable.
Absolutely. Yeah. And for marketing purposes, it was looking like that may not be the best front door problem that people were looking for, like searching online in Google of like, where can I take a course on clearing resentment?
Right. Or certainly not to feel uplifted by that search. Right.
Right.
And so I got vetoed by everyone, and I was happy to get vetoed. And what it turned into was we decided to create a course on play and how to play your way through challenges, because that actually is what we were doing. It's just that I was not a master of that. So
She lived with two masters.
I lived with two masters, 100%.
One being myself and the other being my daughter, Zoe, 12 years old, who Marla was referencing earlier.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So that's helpful to live with people who are practicing the playful perspective.
Yes. Yes. It was essential. And I always used to say, I knew how to play internally and by myself. It just was never really safe to play with anybody else in my family structure, because there were I'm not sure what the best word is here, but there were consequences to being too joyful or too playful in my family structure. Shining too bright. And so I was very hesitant, and I still leaned in, and I was very nervous to create a course around play. And it really forced me into a full collaboration, and it was very challenging. And because we were literally co-creating that course, the business structure changed, because we were co-creating every step along the way. And by the way, at the end, we created this gorgeous course that is all about play. It's super uplifting. It's really fun. It's delightful. And it is a course on how to clear resentment without ever talking about resentment. And that I'm super proud of for both of us. We were able to do that. But that is the beginning for me of my journey of really surrendering into our union, me and Julian, our union, and to trust this man and to listen to this man and to remember that I'm never alone and that he's got my back and he's got the back of all of our clients and he cares just as deeply as I do. It just gets expressed in different ways. And to start to value how he expresses and how he supports, and learning, you used to take me on play dates to your favorite spot at the gardens in Beverly Hills where you used to go to watch the turtles and the ducks. Uh-huh. And I was like, wait, we got to work. And he's like, no, we got to relax and enjoy. And then through the relaxing and enjoying, all these creative ideas would start to emerge.
Yeah, it's true. Yeah, I agree really that the Lovers Play course really was the polish for the transition from mine to ours, from Marla to have the full ownership of the business and me supporting, like you said, Alexandra, and for it to really being ours. Because I mean, even prior to the course, I was still creating just as much content. And it wasn't until the course, the universe said, hey, why don't you, the two of you do this? Because we highly suggested. And we said, okay, universe, that sounds like a great idea. We'll do that, even though we have no idea what we're doing. Like, let's jump before we're ready, because we were entrepreneurs and that's what we do. We're not ready. It doesn't matter. We'll figure it out on the way down. And so we did, and we did figure it out. And it's been really a journey of collaboration. I mean, I know it sounds kind of cheesy, right? It's like, oh, the journey of collaboration, but that's really what it's been, like, moving from a place of being guarded and being unreceptive to things. Marla really shifted and opened up her intimacy and removed those layers to be unguarded and fully receptive, and to release control of how and when and where and why, and really let her ego dissolve in such a way that she was really open to collaborating at a new level in a new way in the unknown. And it's really truly about the service, right? The collaboration is Marla's collaborating with me and I'm collaborating with her, and we're collaborating with our union, all in service of the couples who get to experience and benefit the teachings that are coming through us.
That we're also practicing.
Because we're perpetual beginners, right? Always arriving, never arrived. As soon as you've arrived, guess what? There's more arrival. It's coming again and again. Like, you never arrive, continually arriving.
Okay, so I deeply appreciate how creating an online course would be the context, given that your relationship was already ripe for it, to really make these shifts. I've created an online course and I can totally see how that would work. But I know that there are couples where the woman is an incredible, driven, ambitious, visionary, competent, clear-minded, loving soul with an amazing, warm-hearted man. And they're not going to, the fact that there were fewer adjectives means nothing. Those two adjectives about Julian are meant to have as much weight or lightness or depth as the 6 or so that I said for Marla. But in any case, they're not going to create an online course. Like, the point here is not that creating an online course will up-level your relationship. So I wonder...
No, we don't recommend that.
Right. But I wonder is there like a specific decision point, like you're crafting module 3? Can you take it all the way down into the very basics so anyone listening can imagine this in their own relationship?
It's interesting because I immediately thought it would be so different for every union. Creating a course is just what happened to be the catalyst that works for Marla and Julian. But everybody's unique individual union has that thing that will be the catalyst to propel you to that next level of growth together, that next level of intimacy, that next level of deep connection and understanding and trust and surrender, that it only happens when you put the special code that you bring and the special code that your partner brings, and you bring it together, and it unlocks something that can't be described. That's the unknown, where all the awe and wonder and magic and delight exist and source from. So
I have an umbrella.
So yes, and right, Marla's
Yes.
got an umbrella.
I have an umbrella for all that beauty that you just shared. Yes,
join it together.
I think it distills down to valuing each other's full expression.
Okay, well, that's 100% correct.
Oh, I love it when I get that.
You are 100% correct.
That feels so good. Yeah, and
valuing and amplifying each other's expression, right? You're not just valuing it like, oh, that's amazing, and I'm going to feed off of it. It's like that expression is valuable, and like, I want to collaborate with that amazing visionary that's expressing the way that she is in that way. Like, whoa, I totally value that. And now how do I amplify it? Also, that you're open for my amplification, right? With consent first.
Yes.
Because if I go in with all this amplification energy and she's not ready to receive it, right? Because she's not fully receptive, it's not going to land. It's going to blow up in my face. So getting consent first is truly, truly imperative and vital before I go trying to amplify her expression.
And I agree, because you don't want to be amplifying the things that I'm still mulching on, or alchemizing internally. It's the expression in a visionary and the expression in a more tender-hearted partner are very different. They're very different expressions. And the subtleties of Julian's expression, he may not say as many words as I do, for example, in client conversations, client calls, etc. And my expression may come out in a particular way that seems like I'm the one who has a deeper knowing about something. And please don't let that ever fool anyone, that when you're in a partnership where one person is more of the verbal expressor and the other one is more of an internal expressor, that both ways and all different types of ways of expressing are so valuable. And if I can, and this is what my inner work that I have done and continue to do is where is the collaboration is the question. Am I receiving the subtleties of Julian's delicate nature? And am I receiving the fullness of his passion? Am I receptive? If we go back to our definition of intimacy, being unguarded and receptive at the same time, unguarded for me as a visionary means I don't think I know everything, even though I totally know everything. That I'm able to say yes, and I am available to say, yes, I do know quite a bit. And I want to know what you are sharing. And I want to hear it in more than just words. So I'm going to listen beyond my ears. I'm going to hear beyond my actual hearing capabilities. I'm going to listen and receive in ways that are more subtle. And that helps with being less guarded and less guarded and less guarded until I'm actually fully unguarded. And that is what helps me to learn how to receive more and more of the incredible magic that is in this human being that I get to experience on a daily basis. And then I get to bring that magic into our work because I am more of the driver of the actual work in the world. And behind the scenes, it's a full collaboration.
Yeah. Okay. This is great because I personally relate so much to what your journey has been, Marla, that I'm going to more crassly express as learning to let go of control and learning to not always be right, and not as some theoretical idea, but a really embodied truth. And so in your opening, as you've described it, I know it involves a lot of letting go of a more armored approach and a more righteous approach. And I would love to hear, Julian, if there's any aspects of your soul or personality that you needed to let go of, or if it was more as room was made, you filled it so beautifully.
It's interesting. I mean, I would say I'm always doing deep work. So to say that like I didn't have something big going on, I don't recall the time exactly, but I'm always looking inside and I'm always looking at the darkness and I'm always looking at where I can take even more responsibility for how I'm showing up in this situation in the world. I really try to live my life moment to moment and be present. And so with that presence, sometimes planning is a little more challenging. And I'm working on that. That's for me is like, if you're constantly being present, then how do you take care of the things that need to be looked after now to make sure that 3 months from now that things are, lined up as they should be. And I really feel that surrendering to the union, I think, is really the piece for me that like having the patience, knowing that Marla was going to eventually come around to working in a team, because I know what an amazing collaborator she has the potential to be. This is me speaking from back then. Like, she's now fulfilled that collaboration side of herself in a way that feels so amazing to our union. And now I do, like you said, have that space to step in and be a more full expression of myself. And we do the work together. Like, we're two sets of eyes out there scanning the horizon for whatever adventures are here for our union. And when that's the case, like, there's just opportunities for massive growth, for massive evolution, and for really living a life that's filled with richness. Like, our lives are so rich, like the silliest little things that we find funny and are just like goofy timing things. We're like both like, oh, that's amazing. Nobody else is going to understand what the hell we're talking about. And that's that unique, like, je ne sais quoi quality that each union gets to experience. And we just try to highlight ours whenever we find some little morsel like that. We really try to highlight and celebrate it because, of course, as you know, the things you focus on grow. And so we like to focus on those little bits of magic and turn those little bits of magics into medium-sized bits of magic that turn them into massive bits of magic. And before you know it, you're just living a magical existence.
It's Goldilocks in magic. You know, I ask all of my guests the same question, and I'm going to ask each of you, but I also want to acknowledge that I feel like this entire conversation has been your answer to this question already, but I'm going to ask it anyway. And that is, as you both believe, and I believe, relationship is the ultimate vehicle for personal growth. And so I would love to know, Julian, what have you learned about yourself as a result of being in relationship with Marla?
Result of being in relationship with Marla, I got back into contact with the gentleness and the tenderness that was inside of me that had been hardened because I'm a man living in the society in this year that I live in and the experiences that I've had growing up. And I was able to really melt a lot of that hard exterior that I had collected over time, that armor that I wore just because I didn't know any different. And it really just allowed me to be in contact with that really tender, gentle side of myself, and that it was safe to bring it out and express it. And that not only was it safe, but it was valued. And then not only was it valued, but then she would look for opportunities to amplify and to create even more space for my gentleness and my tenderness to really come through. We joke around, you know, that Julian is a delicate rose, and Julian is a delicate rose, complete with thorns and, you know, delicate petals that could be bruised. And so there's a lot of beauty to the rose, and a lot of complication to the rose, and a lot of simplicity to the rose. So, you know, how about that for a little dichotomy?
I need to add, as you talk about being a tender rose, I don't know exactly how tall you are, but by any definition, even in Viking cultures, you are a big, incredibly handsome, very masculine man by appearance. And I think that enhances the profoundness of what you've just shared.
Thank you. Thank you for acknowledging. Thank you for seeing me, Alexandra. We've always had a very special relationship, and I truly honor the way that you see me. So thank you.
Thank you. Before I ask the question, Marla, what was that like for you to hear Julian's response?
I feel very emotional. I know that to be true. And I love your gentle, tender, playful self that I get to experience every day. And yeah, that acknowledgement really was very moving for me. And just that, yeah, that the world gets to experience that of you as well through our work in the world. And whenever we go out in the world, you know, you bring your playful, loving, joyous energy. And I mean, you've come a long way.
I've come a long way.
You've come a long way.
I have. I mean, just to give the audience of some concept, like idea of where I've come from. Like, I came from a house that had a lot of love and a lot of anger. And so I learned like violence was an acceptable way to express your anger. And I did a very good job of expressing that anger through violence throughout my teenage years until I was in my early 20s, like in college. And I was just like, okay, this is no more. This does not work. And so I took a vow of peace with my hands, but then I just began the process of doing the work inside because the violence was still raging. It just wasn't being expressed outwardly with physical violence. And that was just happening inside of me. And so I was then, being attacked by my own thoughts and my own, how it goes, or maybe you don't, but when you go through darkness, it's challenging and you buck up against all of the things that you don't want to look at. And so my anger journey has been a long one, and it's been many decades of really looking at the truth and softening and looking at what's mine and what's not mine, what was gifted to me by my family lineage and what was gifted to me by society and religious institutions and all the other things, and what's really mine. And I'm really just a sweet, loving, fun, delicate, joy-filled human being. Like, that's just who I be. And I'm very sensitive to what's around me. And so if I'm around a lot of violence, I can pick that up and like fall into line with that violence. And so I'm just very aware of the situations that I put myself in and making sure that I'm constantly looking inside and checking in. I'm not just going on autopilot, being like, okay, I've arrived, I've got my anger resolved and I'm done. It's constantly of like, now it's just the nuance of like, well, now can I just not even raise my voice ever again? Just like there's no irritation, not any form of like, how nuanced can I get with my anger? My anger is like the thoughts. I'm working really hard. My inner thoughts have been so kind for so long now that like it's really a beautiful place to live in my head from where I started from. And yet I know there's so much more refinement left to go.
I'd like to just sit in silence for a while in response to that, but I'm not going to do that because this is a podcast. But I just want to tell you that's my genuine response. And I'd love to ask you, Marla, what have you learned about yourself as a result of being in relationship with Julian?
Thank you for asking. The first thing that truly comes in is through this relationship with Julian, I have gotten a huge reflection of everything that's inside of me, because he reflects pretty one-to-one, meaning whatever is coming out, that's what he's going to give back. And so originally, how much negativity was inside of me, how much control, how much lack of kindness in my expression and my word choices, how much blame and judgment was mixed up in there. And so through this relationship, because we're both on the path of growth and because we're both dedicated to, at our own paces, at our own rates, to move through and beyond our own gifts of negativity that we receive for being in this human form, it was very challenging to take a look at how much negativity was flowing inside of me, because I had a whole list of reasons of why I could point directly to him, why he's the issue, not me. And I'm quite articulate, so it actually made logical sense too. And yet, even through the logic, I knew that if I really truly am on the path of kindness, that it starts from me being kind to myself in my inner world. And one day I said to Julian, what if I was never unkind to you ever again? And he said, that would be great. that would be amazing.
Did that response surprise you?
It did. It did. And then that was the reflection. And I went inside and I thought to myself, oh, that I understand what that really means. What if I am never unkind again. And I thought, well, now I'm on a path, because that's obviously not totally possible because we're still human, etc. And if that is my guiding light, then I can pause and go inside when I feel unkind. Or if it flies out of my mouth before I have the opportunity to catch it and it's hanging in the air, maybe he won't take the bait and he'll let it fall on the floor and I'll take responsibility for it. Or if he takes the bait and responds in kind with lack of kindness, then I can catch it there. Or maybe after a conflict, neither one of us caught it, but later we catch it. And so we don't make it wrong where we catch it on the path. We catch it together in union, and we have fun techniques of how to catch it and where to catch it. Oh, there it is, you know? And so through this relationship, I have learned how to let go of control, how to be in surrender into our union, not into him, into our union. And there's a real subtle distinction. We know you understand. And I really get to be who I am, who I really am, all of myself. I don't have to keep anything hidden. There's nothing hidden from this man. Everything that I become aware of, because there's things that are hidden from me to me. So as soon as I become aware of something, I bring it to our union. I go, oops, I see this piece. This piece is something I've been stashing away. I didn't realize it was in here. I need to talk about it. I want to talk about it. You know, and we alchemize together. So now I realize how much play is available, meaning we don't have to suffer. Pain will be there. Life brings you pain sometimes, you know. Pain is part of the path. It really is. And the suffering is what's optional. So when pain arises, instead of using that pain to attack myself or attack him, I really now do my best to bring the pain with tenderness and kindness and gentleness and care and consideration for how I'm expressing this negativity in a way that's easier for him to receive, even if it's about him. So there, I could probably go on a million more minutes, and probably a good place to pause.
Okay, that sounds good. Well, I have one more question before asking you to share about the Lover's Play course. And I wonder, since the two of you are intentional and careful, this may sound like a silly question, and I'm okay if you take it as one, but I'm not thinking of it as one. And that is, I wonder how you would define play in adults, because I think we know about accessing the childlike way, but it feels like it's more than that when the two of you speak about play in the context of romance and union and relationship.
Well, first of all, we can certainly learn from observing children in play. And when we observe children, we can see that they are unguarded. They're throwing their arms around, they're heading face first into something that's dangerous. They don't even realize they're running into the street because they're so busy in their world of play and imagination. And so that kind of abandon of any kind of, logical thought is something we can learn from. Now, we are still going to be in our logic, unless you're in a medicine journey or something where you're really actively, completely, unhooking from logic in a way, intentionally.
I love that. I just want to also piggyback on what you said about kids, because I fully think that children are play masters. And if you think about it, like until we're 7 years old, we are only receptive. There is no real rejection of what is being brought into our brains. And so
it can look like there is, but that's just imitation. And so actually an expression of receptivity. I just want to add that.
Great. Thank you. Yeah. And so that children being the play masters to learn from, right? Like you can see and be inspired by the way that a child will just spin around. and be like, wow, that kid is just spinning and spinning and spinning. And that feeling of just out of controlness and reckless abandon, right? To just spin like that. And it's like, well, how can I be inspired to do something like that while still maintaining all of my responsibilities, like as a grown adult? But how can I bring that inspiration to be more playful with my partner, or have a more playful approach with a business situation?
And the moments that are the most ripe for play in adults are transitions. So when you're transitioning from one thing to another, from being laying down in your bed in the morning to getting up, from, being together to one person maybe leaving the house, to somebody coming back, to, you were having a great time and all of a sudden you're in the middle of an argument. You want to transition into being kind with each other again. Any transition is a ripe moment for inserting a little bit of that childlike wonder. Because what would happen if in the middle of a really sincere conversation that's challenging, you did a little booty shake? Like what would happen? Hey, I'm just feeling a little spicy in this moment. Yeah, this is a heavy conversation. Can we do a booty shake? What? Hey, right? Or you put on some music and just, grab your partner's hand and start dancing together, right? Or anything that will change the mood to have a more lighthearted approach. Because life is challenging and we have our challenges, and so do we. We have our challenges too. The idea is not to be some perfect version of anything. The idea is to become more aware of opportunities where you can bring your playful, lighthearted self into those challenging spots. And sometimes Julian often says words are often cumbersome. And in the moments where, if I'm really activated by something in a negative way, the word choices that I have available to me are not kind. They're not the kind that are going to be uplifting to the situation. They'll probably be filled with some kind of self-righteousness or blame or defense. And so instead of using words, use sounds, use your body, use your eyes, use your tush, use a spatula, sing the thing that you want to say, instead of going to the same old habit pattern that loops back in our minds that this sucks and I don't want to be part of this anymore, right? Instead, shift into something that uses something other than words. And that is, kids don't use so many words. Take some ideas from the children, observe children. There's countless videos of children doing wonderful things that are just lighthearted and wonderful. And that's what we learn from.
One quick thing that you can do as an adult to tap into some of that playful perspective is just the idea that, what if you played the game? What if in the positive? As adults, we continuously play the game of what if in the negative, discerning and checking and looking and making sure that things are going to be okay. And so what would it look like to just play the what if in the positive? What if the most amazing thing, the most magical thing happened? Look at it from the perspective of like a 6-year-old. Like, what if that I could have the most amazing cupcake pony that I ever wanted? And but like for an adult, it would be a different vibe. But you can be inspired by the child and use that childlike wonder to tap into what if in the positive. What does that look like for me to just apply that? And then you can tap into some of that childlike wonder.
I love that. The what if in the negative as adults sometimes sounds like, what if all the problems of the world, right? What if this happens or what if that happens? And you're worried and nervous and concerned and in fear versus, well, what if people are inspired by me sharing? What if people feel great after they listen to the podcast, right?
So looking for the silver lining that's always there.
I love it.
The gifts of life.
Perfect. So whatever next thought comes your way that brings your energy down, ask yourself, what if, and fill in the blank with something that brings your energy up. Would you like to tell us about the course?
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Would love to tell you about the course. It's been a little over a year. Well, actually, it really was like a 2-year process, to be honest. It is a 6-module course that is, we literally scrubbed it for any negativity. It's completely filled with uplifting, lighthearted approaches to exactly what we're talking about, these transitions. We have an inspiration list to get you started. We help you create your sexy best friend bond list. We have couples yoga that was created specifically for this course from a master yoga teacher who's an international yoga teacher with her partner. And they were pregnant at the time with their sweet baby who's now with us out in the world. It's like a 5-minute video and a 20-minute video. So they're really fun and playful. We've got sex samples, and that's exactly what it sounds like. And the videos are all super short because we primarily work with entrepreneurial couples. So time is of the essence when you're working with people who own businesses. And it is a do-it-yourself course. And we would love to actually offer a checkout code for anyone in your audience who would love to participate in it and purchase it. It's all DIY. And then we also offer an 8-week live coaching program twice a year now, once in the spring and once in the fall, that we teach from the foundation of the Lover's Play course. And our 8-week coaching experience is called the Legendary Love Experience. So this is for couples who are on the path of growth, even if they're not growing at the same pace. And it's for one partner or both. It's really for unions. It's for a union that wants to be nourished and grow and to be guided, and also to receive and share what they know, their mastery, because we have relationship experts in the group, not just us. So it's really a phenomenal community that's growing very organically, and it's a real honor to teach and guide. So we're thrilled with all of what we're doing right now.
And with that, I'm going to thank you, Julian Colker, and you, Marla Mattenson, so much for joining us on the Intimate Marriage Podcast.
Thank you so much for having us.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for joining me on this episode of the Intimate Marriage Podcast. If you're ready to deepen your relationship and create a truly intimate, delicious, and vibrant marriage, head over to alexandrastockwell.com and choose the program that's right for you.